Hi everybody, Jared here from BitGuild. Today we're going to be doing a Q&A. We solicited some great questions from our community over the past week or so, and I wanted to sit down and take 10 or 15 minutes and try and answer them to the best of our abilities and inform you of some other cool things that are going on here at BitGuild. So with that said, let's get started. So, the questions seem to be in a couple of different categories here. One category is in relation to our technical plans for which blockchain we plan to use for BitGuild in the future, as well as scalability solutions considering the current state of the Ethereum network. We've also got some questions here that are related to the games themselves. So, for example, if we see the games being played on PCs in the future, played on mobile, or played on other platforms. And then we've also got questions that are more coming from investors. So from investors' perspective, what do they have to look forward to with BitGuild, with the PLAT token, and of course the ever so often asked in the Telegram channel question of when Lambo, when exchange. So we're going to try and get into these questions one by one, and let's start out with some product-related questions. So we have a question here that asks if there are any plans to bring the BitGuild platform as well as the BitGuild games to mobile phones. So yes. So here's the issue that the blockchain gaming community has been having in general right now with mobile. The way that Apple and Google work right now, which are the two major mobile phone operating system platforms, is they each operate their own application store. So for Apple, it is called the App Store, and for Google, in most countries, especially in US and Europe and Southeast Asia, they have what they call the Google Play Store. So if you want to find an app to download for your mobile phone, you open your iPhone, you click on App Store, you go and you find the app, and it's fairly simple, which is great for users. For developers, unfortunately, we have to deal with a couple of things. Number one is a 30% split that gets sent to Apple or Google. And number two is there's no flexibility in allowing for different payment options other than Apple Pay or Google's in-app purchase system, which means effectively that currently Apple and Google do not allow games which utilize virtual currency in their app stores. Now, that being said, the nice thing about blockchain games is that in their current form, they can all be played through a browser, and that includes mobile browsers. So for those of you who are trying to play blockchain games or any BitGuild games on your mobile phone, I recommend you use Trust Browser. Trust is an app you can download, and it has built-in wallet functionality, and you can play a majority of the games on our platform right now with Trust Wallet. Bitizens, we are working on getting that implemented for mobile as soon as possible, and as soon as that is done, you will hear that first thing from us. So again, with mobile games, it's coming, but a lot of it has to do with Apple and Google and their changes in policies, as well as being able to create an ecosystem where you can have a wallet and the game on your mobile phone in the same place. And we're going to have some more updates about that coming soon. So sticking along with the game or the product-related questions, we have a question here that is, how does BitGuild plan to stand out from its competitors? If well-known game developers copy the idea, but with their own token, how will BitGuild compete? So this is also a very good question. There are a lot of blockchain gaming related platforms or companies out there right now. We've got companies that are building blockchain gaming portals, which is one of the things that BitGuild is doing. We have companies that are creating marketplaces, several companies that are creating marketplaces for game items. We've got some other interesting concepts where you can use tokens to buy, purchase, and resell your downloadable games on your computer. So in general, it's a very big industry, and it's going to be one of the most important industries in blockchain. That being said, the gaming industry in general is huge. So the way we feel about things is if there was only one gaming company out there, there wouldn't be that many great games. In the gaming world, there's hundreds if not thousands of companies that are all putting out great games every year and peacefully coexisting. Now, with blockchain, we feel that it's even going to be more so, because here's the thing about how blockchain works right now. Any success in building a decentralized application, in building a blockchain-based game, or building any of the infrastructure that make these two things possible is beneficial to the entire community. And with the way blockchain works, I've said this before in group, is that the market kind of moves up together and it moves down together. So right now, what's most important, in our opinion, for the future success of blockchain is we have to start get these applications out there and on the market. And so, in our opinion, why we are qualified to do that is our combination of knowledge of both gaming as well as cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology. So a lot of the blockchain games you guys see out there, they're either fairly trivial in terms of gameplay, or there's not much gameplay period, or they might way overshoot what a good blockchain game needs to be now in 2008. Or they don't understand how to implement the technology or the incentive mechanisms. So I think we have that secret sauce kind of right in the middle between the gaming knowledge and gaming background as well as the cryptocurrency knowledge. So we've also got a couple questions here regarding marketing or advertising, which I will try and answer together. So we have one question, which is, at what stage of the project development do you plan to launch a marketing campaign to attract more players to the platform? And the second question is, what's BitGuild's working mode to deal with advertisements, ad placement or ad sponsorships? So marketing is something very interesting in the world of blockchain cryptocurrencies. In traditional gaming companies, what we would do is we would create a game, we would launch the game on the platform, and then we would spend hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in advertisements on platforms like Google or Facebook, or maybe, on Baidu in China. It doesn't quite work exactly the same with blockchain, and there's two reasons for that. Number one is, as it currently stands, blockchain games have a fairly high barrier for entry, with that barrier for entry being the ability to, and knowledge of how to purchase a cryptocurrency, how to utilize a wallet like MetaMask, how to make those transactions, how to not lose your private key so you lose all your money. If you were to go out and tell your mom or your sister or your dog or your grandma, hey, let's go play this blockchain game, there's a very good chance that they would not be able to figure it out. And I think CryptoKitties recently even released figures saying they lost 99% of their users in the first step, which is utilizing MetaMask for their game. So currently, right now, we are very focused on trying to resolve some of these friction points and why in the initial what we call on-ramp for being able to play a blockchain game. So that's number one. Number two is that blockchain and cryptocurrencies, one of the most important things in their design and their philosophy is incentive mechanisms. So whereas traditional companies, you're basically giving your money to Google, or you're giving your money to Apple, or you're giving your money to Facebook in order for them to filter traffic to you, that's not how it works in a blockchain ecosystem. In a blockchain ecosystem with cryptocurrency, you are actually marketing by incentivizing users or incentivizing players to use your services. So a good example are airdrops, are good mining algorithms where, let's say, getting back to Bitizens, when you have the Bitizens mining algorithm, is that it will actually be generating tokens by playing the game, which will be valuable. So by playing a game or by utilizing services of a cryptocurrency project or a blockchain company, users are going to have the ability to essentially earn money. So this is something with Bitizens mining you're going to see, is that through the incentive mechanisms designed into the game, it's going to be able to attract a lot of new users to the platform. In the early days, that's probably going to be cryptocurrency users, people who have cryptocurrency that they want to spend or they want to play around with. And later on, I think as we get into next year and a little bit further, we're going to start pulling in the traditional gamers from the bigger games into the blockchain gaming ecosystem. Another good question here is, are you planning to work with some of the big game developers like Blizzard Entertainment or Fortnite and getting them to hop on your platform? Honest answer, not yet. So the way big companies work is that they typically are not first movers into new technologies and new spaces. We saw this with free-to-play gaming back 10 years ago when companies like EA or Blizzard would never consider to create a free-to-play game. But look at them now. You know, Blizzard has Hearthstone, it has, you know, Overwatch, which is partially free-to-play in terms of opening loot boxes. You've got EA, which has one of the largest free-to-play gaming portfolios out there. So the time, it has not yet arrived, in my opinion, for the big boys to get involved. However, what we are seeing is a lot of the really creative, really unique, really cool type of independent gaming studios and independent game companies who are getting out there and who are starting to experiment and make games on the blockchain. So right now is a time for experimentation, but we expect that the big guys will get in eventually. So let's get into a little bit about the blockchain technology that we are using and our plans for the future. So we have a question here, which is, have you worked out any concrete plan to launch your own blockchain apart from Ethereum that you have adopted and run currently? And then a similar question is, do you have a plan to migrate to EOS? And another similar question is, do you have a plan to migrate to TRON? So when we first started out on Ethereum, and when blockchain games first started out on Ethereum with the release of CryptoKitties, Ethereum was leaps and bounds stronger than Bitcoin in terms of the ability for game developers to execute on the visions that they had in their head of the type of game they wanted to design. With the introduction of smart contracts with the Ethereum blockchain, we were able to build some fairly complex game ideas that are able to run without risk, without fraud, and we've seen some really, really creative attempts there. From, again, CryptoKitties up to FOMO 3D recently, which magically turned the concept of a pyramid scheme into a very fun game with one of the most vibrant communities that we've seen yet in the space. That being said, Ethereum is also very unstable. And so this has been written about a little bit recently, but there have been instances that have occurred over the past 3 or 4 months that have utilized a significant amount of Ethereum network traffic, which leads to higher and higher transaction fees for everybody participating in the Ethereum network, including us. What that means is that if we want to sell something in game for $2, on a normal day, it could cost 30 to 50 cents in transaction fees to purchase that $2 item. However, which by the way is high in and of itself, but if we have some of these new coin or trade to mine exchange listings or some of these things that we've been seeing recently, then we've seen gas spike up to from 1 to 2 gwei per gas up to 200 to 250 gwei per gas a couple of months ago, which is essentially tens of dollars per transaction. So if you wanted to buy something that costs $2, you might have to spend $25 or $30 to purchase that item, which means that pretty much all games stop when those things happen. So several blockchain projects have come out recently that work to address the scalability issues inherent to Ethereum. One of them is EOS, another one is TRON, and we also have solutions like Loom, which is not a standalone blockchain as much as it is a sidechain-based scalability solution for Ethereum. And we've been doing a lot of research on all of these. So personally, let me talk about one of my long-term philosophies about blockchain games. And that is, I do not believe there should be gas fees or transaction fees on every transaction that happens in a blockchain game. Now, when we talk about transactions in blockchain games, we're not talking about transactions in typical games, which is I have $10, I take my credit card, and I go and pay the $10 and, you know, get paid, the company gets taken a 2 or 3% transaction fee. We're talking about, in a blockchain game, when anything of value changes hands. That could be a token, that could be a piece of equipment or a sword or a potion, then that is a transaction because something is moving from one wallet to another wallet, and there are fees involved with that. There are fees involved with opening a magic box. You have to pay a gas fee to open the box, and then the blockchain gaming company has to pay a gas fee to send you the item from that magic box, which can add up to a lot of money really fast. So personally, we are looking at solutions that do not use gas in the long term. So this is something that might be difficult with Ethereum, even with some of the solutions that they have proposed, as well as something like Loom, which runs great and it runs fast on the sidechain, but eventually you are going to want to migrate those items back onto the main chain, and the gas is still going to need to be paid for at that point. So we have been looking at very closely at EOS and TRON, and we're very close with both of the teams and have been in touch with them. And they each have kind of their own strengths and weaknesses right now. EOS is fantastic in that you're able to stake your tokens for bandwidth and CPU. Unfortunately, they're having issues with RAM right now. And it costs up to $14 or $15 to create an account on EOS. It also has another issue of being not too user-friendly on the end-user side in terms of being able to create a public and private key, create an account. They have to deal with different permission structures, etc. These are all things we think are going to get resolved in the short future, and it's something that we are paying very close attention to. It's fast as hell, there's no gas fees, and it's doing the most transaction volume of any blockchain out there right now. So with their governance issues and issues with RAM, we hope to see those resolved as quickly as possible, but it is one potential blockchain we are looking at for migration. The other one is TRON. So TRON, a lot of people don't give it credit, but they actually have one of the strongest communities in the blockchain space, in my opinion. They also have a fairly strong community of people interested in gaming and entertainment, as those were some of the things that the TRON original white paper had talked about. So TRON has also recently launched their mainnet. They're a little bit slower than EOS in terms of putting their smart contracts and their virtual machines online, but it is also one that we are looking at very closely, and we are in very close communication with the TRON team. At this point in time, we are not currently considering launching our own blockchain, although if we are unable to find a solution that fits our needs, then it is something we will consider. Philosophically speaking, when somebody owns a virtual item, it needs to be owned in a place where there is consensus that this is the place where all virtual items should be held. So the problem with smaller blockchains that are not top 5 or top 10 is there's not a lot of consensus in community behind this being the blockchain where virtual assets are going to be held. It's something where if you've got your own blockchain but it's not really big in terms of adoption, and in my opinion it's not that much different from just using a centralized server-based architecture. So we are looking at blockchains that are up there on the top 5 or the top 10, and right now EOS and TRON have shown the most short-term to mid-term promise as potential places for decentralized applications and blockchain games to be hosted on. So now let's talk about a subject that a lot of you guys have been asking about, and that is PLAT, or the valuation of PLAT. And specifically, we have a question here: what can a crypto enthusiast and an investor expect of PLAT? Will the wait be worth it, and how long will we have to wait? So I think there's a couple of things here that need to be mentioned. Number one is that unfortunately the era of purchasing a cryptocurrency and then 2 months later having that cryptocurrency go up by 10 to 100x without a product ever coming to fruition, those days are sadly over for now. What we will see in the future is that blockchain projects or companies are actually going to have to put a lot of their time and their energy into building the product they said they were going to build and actually being able to show success in the execution of that project. And that's one of the reasons why we are so focused here on the games, on the portal, on the world of citizens that we are building right now, is that in the future, it's not going to be about who's the best shiller or who can do the most speeches around the world and who can get the most publicity for an unreleased project. It's going to be about who makes the best damn product or who makes the best game. And I honestly, in my heart, feel that, and that's why we work so hard on the games. Number two that's worth mentioning is that the designs of the tokenomics behind the project token are also essential to the project. So if you've got a product out there that's doing 10, 50, $100 million a year, it's utilizing blockchain technology, that's great. But users and investors have to ask themselves the question, what does the success of the product have to do with the token itself? And that's when we get into some really interesting mechanics that blockchain is able to provide, such as token burning. The best example, in my opinion, is Binance. So Binance, every quarter, they're a very profitable company, and they take a specified percentage of their profit, they use it to rebuy BNB, which is the Binance token, and then they burn it. And if we actually look, the Binance token is one of the most stable tokens of all of 2018. So here at BitGuild, with the games that we launch, and especially our first-party games like Citizens, we are going to be focused very heavily on the tokenomics about the game. And so without getting into too much detail, the game will have mining. The game will feature us buying back PLAT. The game will feature the burning of PLAT. The main point of the games we create is to generate revenue with many users and use that revenue to do something like repurchase and burn PLAT. So this is something that we had not really got into too much detail before, but it is something, as we release the next version or two of Citizens, we're going to be talking more and more about. So with that being said, PLAT is not a short-term pump and dump token. And again, for those of you who are in this for the short term and who didn't really have much interest in the gaming aspect of things, I sincerely apologize for not being able to get all of you Lambos yet. However, if you guys have faith in the long-term project, the team, and the things that we're building, we think that you're in for an interesting ride. So now let's get to the question that is listed about 12 times here on this piece of paper in front of me. When exchange? When? There are 5 exclamation points after the second when. What's your address? When scam? When Lambo? When Binance? Raise the value, please. When exchange? When exchange? When exchange? You duckhead, when exchange? 3 question marks after that one. When exchange? And what is the Play Money film release date? Which I don't know, it should be soon. We will list on an exchange when the token is ready to be listed on an exchange. So 2 things. Number 1, we are a product-first company, and we believe that the valuation of the token should follow the product. And that makes us outcasts, potentially, in the current market. But we spend 12 to 14 hours every day working on building a product, thinking about how we can reduce early adopter friction for playing games, how we can change the wallet, how we can change the entire process to make it so that more people can start playing games which utilize the blockchain. To to wrap things up, I wanted to talk real quick about some of the things we've got coming up here at BitGuild. Number one, the Citizens wardrobe release. So for any of you guys who participated in either the ICO or the IGO, you're going to have exclusive items available to you in this next update that you can wear and show off to your friends. And they will never be released again. If you've got them, you've got them. If not, the only way people are going to be able to get them in the future is from buying those items from you off the marketplace. Number two is portal updates. We've got a big update to our marketplace coming soon, which is going to be important for Citizens. We've also got transaction history, notifications, and several more mechanics that are coming up over the next 2 or 3 weeks here. Also, we want to very briefly talk about mining. So the next major update for Citizens after the wardrobe update is going to be mining. We're not going to release all the details here yet today, but I will tell you this. With the Citizens mining system, you will be able to mine cryptocurrency by playing the game. This is going to be something really unique. The way we're designing it has not really been done by any other blockchain game out there. And we're putting a lot of energy and thought into this, and we will be releasing more details about it very soon. So we're very, very excited here about Citizens. We're excited about the virtual world of Metropolis. We are the BitGuild. Anybody in our community, we are all members of BitGuild, and we really have some cool things coming up over the next couple of months that we're going to be releasing to you here in our weekly updates. So again, thank you everybody for your questions. Feel free to send us an email if you have any more questions that you don't feel were addressed here, and we will get to them in a later update. Thanks again.